السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وحبيبه بلغ الأمانة وأدى الرسالة ونصح الأمة فكشف الله به الغمة وتركنا على المحاجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. فاللهم يا أرحم الراحمين اجمعنا به في أعلى عليين مع النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. اللهم آمين. My dear brothers and sisters, we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has fulfilled the amana that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has entrusted him with, delivering the message of the Quran and Sunnah. Alayhi salatu wassalam, he said, تَرَكْتُ فِيكُمْ مَا إِن تَمَسَّكْتُمْ بِهِ لَن تَضِلُّوا بَعْدِي أَبَدًا. He said, I have left amongst you something if you follow step by step you will never go misguided. What is it, Ya Rasulullah? Kitabullah wa sunnati. The book of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is the curriculum of life for every man, for every woman who are believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to be successful and at the end of the road reach to Jannah, this is your curriculum. My dear brothers and sisters, I remind myself and remind you to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and work as hard as possible to reach as close as possible to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Allah says, oh who you believe, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how we ought to be feared and never die except in the status of complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, complete submissions to the orders of the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My dear brothers and sisters, our topic today is فضل طلب العلم الشرعي, the benefits of seeking the knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most beneficial ibadat, the most beneficial acts of worship is seeking the knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Allah says, are those equal, those who know and those who don't know? It is those who are blessed with the understanding, who are blessed with the knowledge, that receive that ni'mah of being able to contemplate, being able to reflect about the ayat of the Quran, being able to reflect on the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. those who are blessed with the knowledge, are the only ones who can really reflect on the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another ayah, شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم قائما بالقسط لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. Allah bears witness that there is no God except Him, and so do the angels and the knowledgeable ones. لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. He upholds justice. There is no God except Him. He is the mighty, He is the wise subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where did Allah put the knowledgeable ones in this ayah? Along with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala and the angels. My dear brothers and sisters, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam honored the people of knowledge as well. And mentioned that those who are blessed with the knowledge of the deen, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted khayr for them. In the hadith that was narrated by Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, in Muslim, he says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, من يريد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes goodness for him, He bestows upon him the fiqh, the comprehension, the understanding of the deen. If Allah wants khayr for you, He will make it easy for you to seek the knowledge of the deen. My dear brothers and sisters, seeking the knowledge of the deen is more important in your life more than you think. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, he says, حاجة الناس إلى العلم الشرعي أعظم من حاجتهم إلى الطعام والشراب. The need, the necessity of seeking knowledge, the knowledge of the deen, it is more important to the people more than them seeking the necessity of food and drink. You see where's that ranking? You need food and drink every day to sustain your life. The same thing. The knowledge is more important than that. The knowledge of the deen is more important than that. My dear brothers and sisters, and the knowledge of the deen is divided into two. One portion of the knowledge of the deen that it is mandatory. It is mandatory upon every Muslim and Muslimah to try to learn and try as hard as possible to absorb it, comprehend it. You have to seek it. What is this portion? This portion is your salah. How do you perform your salah? What are the pillars of the salah? What are the wajibat of the salah? What do you do when you're missing something in the salah? You have to understand everything in relation to the main ibadat, your soul, your fasting. All the regulations around your fasting, every single Muslim, baligh al-aqil, who is an adult and in the right mindset, they need to seek and do their extra effort to get to that knowledge. Al-mu'amalat, dealing with people, living your life in a halal way. What is the halal? What is the haram? This is the basic knowledge. The basic knowledge that any Muslim needs to know. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, من عمل عملا ليس عليه أمرنا فهو رد. Whoever performs an action of worship not according to the Quran and Sunnah, his amal, his action is rejected. And that's why you need to do the extra effort to understand the ibadat. And in this regard, I mention a qa'idah, a ruling. One of the scholars of the hadith of this age, he mentioned a qa'idah. Shaykh Abi Ishaq al-Huwaini, he mentioned, الأصل في الأشياء الإباحة إلا إذا ورد نص بحرمتها. The essence, the basis of the things that we do in our regular life is mubah. It's allowed in Islam except if there is a nas, a text from the Quran and Sunnah that prohibits it. طيب, give us an example. An example, eating. Anything is permissible to eat except if there is a text in the Quran or the Sunnah that says it's a muharram. Dealing with the people, the same thing. طيب, the most important piece is coming to the second part of that ruling. قال والأصل في العبادات والأصل في العبادات المنع إلا إذا ورد نص بالإذن. and the essence and the basis for the ibadat, for the acts of worship, that it is prevented or prohibited except if there is a permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran and Sunnah that allows you to do this ibadat. For example, Allah allows you to worship Him, to pray Isha for rak'ah. Can you say, today I'm going to pray 6 rak'ah? You can't. Allah tells you that you are allowed to pray Fajr 2 rak'ah. Can you pray 4 rak'ah? You can't, right? Allah allows you to worship Him on His own way. You cannot invent your own way of the ibadat. Of course, there are the sunnah, right? And there are regulations for the sunnah as well. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, عليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين من بعدي عضوا عليها بالنواجذ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that you have to hold tight to my sunnah and the sunnah of those, the 4 righteous scales that come after me. عضوا عليها بالنواجذ. Hold tight to it. Hold tight to it as if you're holding with your molar teeth. That's the metaphor that we have in this hadith. So my dear brothers and sisters, there is basic knowledge, especially that in relation to the ibadat, that every Muslim and Muslimah need to work so hard to understand it and comprehend it. We work so hard in our schools, in our colleges, to get to high careers, a better life. How about higher degrees in Jannah? You can't get to that if you don't know how to pray properly. But dear brothers and sisters, there is another portion of the ilm, the knowledge of the deen and sunnah, that's not mandatory. That it is fardu kifaya. That if it's a portion of the people, the portion of the ummah is dedicated to learning it, then سقط الإثم عن الباقين. The sin doesn't follow anybody else. But if nobody else is seeking that knowledge, that's when the sin gets to be attached to everybody. What is that portion of the knowledge? The extra. More than what's mandatory for every Muslim and Muslimah. What's an example? Let's say you want to learn about usul al-hadith. How did the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came to us today? That's an extra knowledge that is not mandatory for you to learn, but you get the benefit from learning it. Let's say you want to learn in depth about the different types of fiqh, or different madahib of fiqh. This is extra. Work for it. You get the ajr. You get the benefit. You teach the people, you get even more benefit. But this is the extra. As I mentioned, there's a mandatory portion that you have to cover first. My dear brothers and sisters, there is so much benefit, there is so much fadail to learning the knowledge of the deen. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions in the hadith of Abi Hurayrah radiyallahu anhu fi الصحيحين. He said, إذا مات ابن آدم, when the son of Adam dies, انقطع عمله إلا من ثلاث. When the son of Adam passes away and leaves this dunya, his amal, his good deeds, adding to the book of good deeds, it stops, except from 3. صدقة جارية, a continuous sadaqah. Number 2, علم ينتفع به, a knowledge that's benefited from. Number 3, ولد صالح يدعو له, a righteous son that makes dua for you after you leave this dunya. But number 2, let's focus on number 2 now. When you have a knowledge and you teach it to the people, this is a continuous ajr. You teach somebody how to make wudu. Every time he makes wudu, you take portion of that ajr. رغم أنه لا ينقص من أجره شيئا. It doesn't take from his reward. You still take the extra ajr for teaching him. Even after you leave this dunya, even after you leave this dunya. What else? What other fada'il? What other benefits you get from seeking the knowledge of the deen? In the hadith of Abi Hurayrah رضي الله عنه في الصحيحين قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in that hadith, Allah makes the way to Jannah easy for this person who treads on the path in search of knowledge. Allah makes the way to Jannah easy for the person who hits the road seeking the knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who doesn't want that? When you go with the mindset, oh Allah, I'm seeking that knowledge to make sure that I'm fulfilling the wajib of the ilm that I need to know. Allah makes the Jannah easy for you. Who doesn't want that? Is that easy? You need to have sincerity and the intention to hit the road, to seek the knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't have to be dedicated on the halaqas every day. How many hours you spend in your phones and social medias and wasting so much time on nonsense? علم لا ينتفع به, a knowledge that doesn't benefit. وجهل لا يضر, and something if you don't even know it, it doesn't harm you. How many times we spend online about that knowledge? How about you dedicate just 1 hour? 1 hour learning. Start learning about your salah. Start with this. Learn about the salah. Stick to that. You finish that. You know you mastered your salah. You know everything about salah. Transition. What's siyam? What's sadaqah? What's zakah? Zakah. So many of us don't know nothing about zakah. It's rukn, it's a pillar, one of the pillars of Islam. And so much of us don't know nothing about zakah. It's within that bare minimum that every Muslim and Muslimah needs to know. But you see, the way to Jannah is easy. You need to have the right intention with sincerity that you're seeking the knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah makes the way to Jannah easy for you. My dear brothers and sisters, what else from the benefits of seeking knowledge? One of the benefits from seeking knowledge, that when you seek the knowledge and you try to teach it to the people, Allah puts the love and the honor and respect in the people for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, يَرْفَعُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah will rise up to suitable ranks and degrees those of you who believe and who have been granted knowledge, the knowledge of the deen. And Allah is well acquainted with all you do. So Allah puts you in ranks in this dunya and the akhirah for seeking the knowledge, for teaching the people the knowledge of the deen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه ولي المستغفرين. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين ثم ما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters, تكلمنا عن فضائل طلب العلم الشرعي. We talked about the benefits that you get from seeking the knowledge of the deen. And we mentioned how those who intend to sincerely seek that path for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the path to Jannah easy. We focused mainly on how important to try to understand and seek the knowledge that is mandatory for each Muslim to know. The bare minimum, especially those in relation to the ibadat and the arkan, the pillars of the deen. My dear brothers and sisters, the seeker of knowledge, the person who seeks the knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the knowledge of the deen, it is better for them than anything in this dunya. Anything in this dunya. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam في حديث عقبة بن عامر رضي الله عنه قال خرج رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ونحن في الصفة. عقبة بن عامر, he says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came to us out from his house وَنَحْنُ بِالصُّفَّةِ, while we are in the place of Suffah, which is a gazebo. Think of it as a gazebo within the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where most of the poor people used to gather in. And then he said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم says, أيكم يحب أن يغدو كل يوم إلى بطحان أو إلى العقيق فيأتي منه بناقتين كوماوين ولا قطع رحم. And he said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam asked them a question. Again, remember those are the poor people of Sufa. Right? He said, which one of you would like to go out every morning to Bathan or Aqib? Bathan or Aqib are two wadis, two valleys near Medina where the camels were sold. And he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, which one of you would like to go to Bathan or Aqib every day where they can get two she-camels, like top-notch she-camels, the best ones. Think of like Lamborghinis of today's world, right? Then the Sahaba responded, فَقُلْنَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ نُحِبُّ ذَلِكَ. They responded, oh Rasulullah, we love that. Who doesn't love that? I ask you today, who would like to go to downtown Kansas City and get two Lamborghinis? That's theirs, every day. Anybody would say no? I doubt it. So this is the question that Rasulullah mentioned to the Sahaba. And they said, would like that, Ya Rasulullah. He said, عليه الصلاة والسلام, أفلا يغدو أحدكم إلى المسجد فيتعلم أو يقرأ آيتين من كتاب الله عز وجل خير له من ناقتين وثلاث خير له من ثلاث وأربع خير له من أربع ومن أعدادهن من الإبل. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam responded to the Sahaba, أفلا يغدو أحدكم إلى المسجد. Doesn't one of you go out to the morning to the masjid and teach or recite two verses from the Quran? خير له من ناقتين كوميتين. It's better for him than these two she-camels. When you come to the masjid and you learn two ayat from the Quran, it's better for you than these two Lamborghinis. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam continues the hadith, and 3 is better than 3, and 4 is better than 4. Meaning 4 ayat is better than 4 she-camels. So learning the knowledge of the deen is mandatory, and it is better for you than anything in this world. My brothers and sisters, العلم طلب العلم كثيرة. The means of seeking knowledge are easy and accessible. More accessible in today's world than previously. So many, as I mentioned earlier, yet we waste our time in so much nonsense. My dear brothers and sisters, that nonsense is overwhelming right now. And we don't want that to be the overwhelming majority. We want the knowledge of the deen to be the overwhelming, at least in your own environment, at least in your own world. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam warned us from such ages, from such days. And he said alayhi salatu wa salam, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَقْبِضُ الْعِلْمَ انْتِزَاعًا يَنْتَزِعُهُ مِنَ الْعِبَادِ وَلَكِنْ يَقْبِضُ الْعُلَمَاءَ حَتَّى إِذَا لَمْ يَبْقَ عَالِمًا اتَّخَذَ النَّاسُ رُؤُوسًا جُهَالًا فَسَأَلُوا فَأَفْتَوْا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ فَضَلُّوا وَأَضَلُّوا. My dear brothers and sisters, we have to have amongst ourselves people who commit to seeking the knowledge. Because if we don't, as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in this hadith, that Allah doesn't take away knowledge by removing it from the people, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take the knowledge by taking away the scholars, the ulama. Until there is no ulama, and people will take the examples to follow the ignorant ones. And they will ask the ignorant ones, and the ignorant ones will misguide them. فَضَلُّوا وَأَضَلُّوا. And that's why we need to dedicate ourselves especially to learn about the basic necessities of the deen that anybody needs to know about. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to get him busy with ilmun la yanfa', with a knowledge that doesn't benefit. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in the hadith of Jabir radiallahu anhu that was mentioned in Ibn Majah, قال سألوا الله علما نافعا وتعوذوا بالله من علم لا ينفع. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for beneficial knowledge and seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from a knowledge that doesn't benefit. My dear brothers and sisters, seeking the knowledge of the deen has to be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're being sincere for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that path, Allah will make it easy for you. Although, I warn you, if you seek in the knowledge of the deen for a matter of this dunya, then it will not be good at all. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in the hadith of Abi Musa al-Ash'ari radiallahu anhu. He said, before we mention this hadith, we mentioned the hadith of Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu. He says, من تعلم علما مما يبتغى به وجه الله عز وجل لا يتعلمه إلا ليصيب به عرضا من الدنيا لم يجد عرف الجنة يوم القيامة. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in this hadith, the person who seeks the knowledge that is meant to be seeking for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except he seek it for a matter of this dunya or a benefit of this dunya, whether that to be title, money, whatever the case is, then what is the uquba? That in return Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not make even smell the fragrance of the Jannah. So my dear brothers and sisters, seeking the knowledge, it has to be sincere from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seeking the knowledge of the deen, it has to be sincere, complete sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your nafs might take you left and right. Your shaitan might come to you and take you left and right, but you have to return back. Renew your niyyah and keep it sincere. One of the scholars of hadith, what he would say, when I'm writing the hadith, I will start writing the hadith and my niyyah sincere. The shaitan comes to me in the middle of writing the hadith and changes my niyyah, but I keep renewing it. You keep doing the same. Every time you seek in the knowledge, every time you do any act of ibadah, you keep renewing that niyyah to make it sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My dear brothers and sisters, let's conclude with this hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in this hadith of Abi Musa al-Ash'ari radiallahu anhu, قال إن مثل ما بعثني الله به من الهدى والعلم كمثل غيث أصاب أرضا فكانت منها طائفة طيبة قبلت الماء فأنبتت الكلأ والعشب الكثير وكان منها أجادب أمسكت الماء فنفع الله بها الناس فشربوا منها وسقوا وزرعوا وأصاب طائفة أخرى إنما هي قيعان لا تمسك الماء لا تنبت الكلأ فذلك مثل من فقه في دين الله ونفعه بما بعثني الله به فعلم وعلم ومثل من لم يرفع بذلك رأسا ولم يقبل هدي الله الذي أرسلت به. This is a long hadith. In brief, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is giving us a beautiful metaphor. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is telling us in this hadith that the example of the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent me with, the knowledge of the deen, the Quran and Sunnah, is the example of al-ghayth, the heavy rain. And that heavy rain will fall all across the land. Some land will absorb it and retain it, and in return comes the fruit and the plants. And some land will be solid, it will collect the water where people will take it to drink and also irrigate their plants. However, there are some lands where it's so sandy and desert, it doesn't retain water, nor for the benefit of the people, nor there is any production of fruit. What is that in relation of the seeker of the knowledge? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam goes on to say, this is exactly the example of the person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit him with the knowledge of the deen, benefit him with the accessibility to learn about the deen, and everything is around him, so he absorbs it. And there's the fruits in the community, he spreads that knowledge, he absorbs it and contain it, and then share it with others so they can learn too. But then there is those among us that they are just like that desert. The knowledge flow left and right. We don't absorb it at all. Sometimes we absorb it and we lose it and we don't even share it. My dear brothers and sisters, be like the first one and don't be like the second one. My dear brothers and sisters, do your best to try to learn more about the basic knowledge of the deen that every Muslim needs to know. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us the ways. نسأل الله العلي العظيم أن يعلمنا ما ينفعنا وينفعنا بما علمنا ويزيدنا جميعا علما. اللهم آمين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت اللهم على الحق أقدامنا، وانصرنا على من عادانا، ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا، ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا إلى النار مصيرنا، ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك فينا ولا يرحمنا يا أرحم الراحمين. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم من كل ذنب فاستغفروه، وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا